Great. Welcome to, as Christian said, I'm going to be asked to give a little bit of talk about how I've gone about integrating new technologies within the undergrad teaching that I've done, and particularly at the University of Northampton, where I've sort of engaged with Winback in this process. So it's kind of just briefly sort of talk about what I was asked to do, was to kind of just talk a little bit about myself and how I go about curriculum development, the processes in which I try and integrate new technology within my courses, and then why it was that sort of Winback and SmartCuff sort of appealed to me, and so on, and sort of the processes that I take at looking into integrating new technologies. So a bit about myself first. So as Christian mentioned, I currently am the program lead and senior lecturer at the University of Northampton for a newly accredited Ballarat program. So hello, Alan. How are you doing? And previous to that, I've worked at several different institutes. So I've been teaching now for, this is my 15th year of higher education teaching. And prior to that, I'd worked within professional sport and within private practice. But during my academic career, I've been responsible for, or parts of teams that have written programs, both undergrad and postgraduate level, and sort of mapped programs against the Society of Sports Therapy, in performance and coaching, a fast track at staff. So hello, Steve, who's my former colleague. Was just partly sort of program led and partly responsible for the strength conditioning fast track there, and then moved to University of Northampton to 2018, where I have been responsible for the writing of the rehab and conditioning degree, which I now lead. In addition to that, I am one of the Ballarat accreditation officer team under the guidance of Education Officer Richard Moss. So I've sort of helped inform from, I guess, the Ballarat competencies perspective to Teesside, to Cumbria, to Nottingham, and one other that I can't recall now off the top of my head, as well as being external examiner to Bolton University, and having been advisor to Bedford University, to New Bucks University, and another one that again I can't recall off the top of my head now. So throughout my kind of academic career, I've sort of seen a lot of curriculum development and seen kind of how the professions and the industry has changed over that sort of since the 20 years since I've roughly sort of been in this profession. If anyone does want to get in touch with me with any questions afterwards, my details are over there on the left hand side of the screen should you wish to do so. So the processes that I kind of go through, I've sort of summed this into the what's, the hows and the wheres really. And my first sort of points are kind of what do I have to do? So in my current guide, obviously we have an educational framework that Ballarat set. So there are things that we have to kind of cover within our curriculum development. So what are those that are the things that I have to do and have to include? Then there's the parts of what are other people doing and how are they doing it? And this is where I've kind of highlighted the benefits of being an external and seeing how other universities go about this, and looking at where you see good practice. And again, as Paul Donnelly mentioned about the academy side of what Winback do, and the sharing of good practice and the networking, and just seeing different approaches, different ways in which everyone thinks they've got the best way of doing something, and you come across somebody else doing it and you think that's a really good way of doing it. And the benefits that I've had of engaging with externals, be that employers, be that other academics, has been really beneficial for the position I now take on these things. The third what is, what do employers use and what do graduates need to kind of benefit their employability? So there are practices and things covered within curriculum that didn't exist when I went through my degree, and you've got to evolve. You can't stay stagnant, in my opinion. You've kind of got to look at how practice is changing and see the end product of what you're producing as an undergraduate professional is fit for purpose and fit for employment. So what do employers want, and you engaging with those different stakeholders to see what ultimately is going to benefit the students. The hows, so how can I do what I do better? So within the resources and the constraints that I have within my own institution, if the budget is there to invest in something new and innovative, what am I going to spend that on, and what am I going to spend it on wisely, particularly in the current financial climate within higher education. We can't be spending money on products that are going to be wasted and seem to be, I guess, too niche to some extent. So it needs to be used, it needs to show value, that it's going to help develop the course. So what can I actually do better, be that in the way in which I teach, or be that in the content that I'm developing, or be that in the subject matter that I'm actually kind of addressing. And then how can I do what others do, but better? So picking up on all the experiences that I've had at several different institutions, the different approaches that I've looked at, and thinking, okay, and this is kind of one of the tricky parts of this talk, I guess, of me giving a talk about how I integrate technology to within undergraduate programs to other undergraduate program developers, and thinking, well, I don't want you to be better than me ultimately, but that's kind of the challenge that we face. It's sharing of practice without selling the crown jewels effectively. But yeah, evaluating, reflect on what I do and what others do, and how can we be better, because ultimately it's the student that needs to be the benefiter of this. And then the wheres. So where are the regulations flexible or open to interpretation? So be that where every institution would have certain subject experts, how can I maximize that expertise within my team to kind of make sure that we're giving a great experience? And likewise within educational frameworks, be that from the CSP, be that from chiropractors, be that from BASRAT, be that from the Society of Sports Therapy, whoever that might be. Where is there flexibility and open to interpretation within an educational framework? So if you take the terms of electrotherapy, they're quite broad. Not everyone has the same electrotherapy kit. Not everyone can afford it. Some teach the principles of it. Some have got the kit to teach the practicals of it. And likewise with rehab, some will have access to hydrotherapy, some won't. Some will have access to blood flow restriction, some won't. So actually, what are the approaches that we're going to actually take in rehab? Some are very biomechanics heavy. Some are, some don't have that capacity to do that type of biomechanics within their institute. So again, looking at the resources that I've got and looking at where there is scope for me to be individualistic and develop a potential USP within my program. So then it's looking at where I can build that innovation into my program to add value, both to the program and the graduate outcome. So this is kind of where we're then, as an undergraduate, considering our metrics, be it the NSS, be it looking at things that are going to influence Guardian League tables, for example, the stuff that my bosses want to know, why we're doing well or not so well in these things, and what are you doing about it. And ultimately, those things that help the student experience and help the graduate employability. If a student has an innovative, exciting, interesting program that they are work ready for, they're going to be more employable at the end of it. And therefore, every student becomes a walking, talking advert for my program, as well as getting a great experience and being skilled at the end of it. So, little picture of you, Andy. So I came across Winback as I got to Northampton. I'd seen some stuff online and I liked the products, and I was looking for things that I could do differently when I moved back this way from Staffs. And I was first drawn to the Tecar unit. And oh, sorry. Can everyone else see? Yeah, I first saw the Tecar unit and had several meetings with Paul in the processes. And the thing that really appealed to me is it was different. And it was different in that way in which I kind of look at products when I'm trying to think, where am I going to spend my tight budget? I want it to be multi-curricular. So for me, this was that aspect of teaching elements of electrotherapy, but also it being integrated with the manual therapies and with the exercise therapy, and with the Winback unit in particular, that aspect of it kind of growing with a rehab plan. It isn't just something I'm going to use in one stage and one stage only. You've got that aspect of it being a fully passive modality, but it can also integrate into being something that's combined with manual therapy, but also combined with resistance work when we're doing rehab. And that for me then meant that it wasn't only going to tap into one element of one module. It was something that I could pull in at different parts. And when we're developing students' ideas around rehab and rehab development, thinking actually, how is this tool going to grow with me and not just be kept in a cupboard collecting dust and not being used in the full spectrum of where it can be. So really sort of opening a student's eyes as to what can be done with this piece of kit. And that was very similar with the smart cuffs. Obviously, blood flow occlusion has been a huge topic in the last 5 years or so, and trying to integrate this within the rehab that we do. So we have elements of strength and conditioning, we have elements of rehab, we have elements of health with the University of Northampton. So actually seeing again how this can be used in multi-programs, multi-curricular, and with that, the collaboration of research within those different curriculums. So whether or not we're looking at blood flow restriction in elderly patients for risk of falls, or whether we're looking at blood flow restriction to reduce muscle wastage in injured or post-operative patients, or whether we're looking at blood flow restriction as in terms of sort of muscle gain in our elite athletes, whatever that might be, there is a scope for transmission of one piece of kit in multiple facets of this profession and the curriculum that I deliver in. And that then kind of leads into the research, be that staff research or student research, and that cross collaboration of different professions having different ideas on the same piece of resource. And then obviously there's the support that kind of has come from Paul. He's been very sort of open. We've had lots of sort of training and lots of support on anything that we've needed. Similar when Andy came down and did the BFR stuff to the team. And that kind of network and opportunity is kind of really sort of helped develop for me. We did stuff with GCP at St George's Park off the back of a contact with Paul. Similarly, Andy came down and gave a talk and some staff development around the BFR, and some opportunities have kind of risen off the different networks and contacts that have come back through the academy setup that have really kind of started to come to fruition for my program now as it comes into its second year. And that's me. Thank you for listening. If anyone has any questions for me, then by all means, please do ask.